the channel. I'm back to break down this AL Wildcard MLB DFS Showdown slate on Draftkings and Fanduel. Excited to get into it. The one-game Showdown slate definitely a little bit different than what we're used to dealing with for baseball, but as I always say, the smaller the slate, the deeper we can get into detail, really go into the deep analysis and give you guys the best picks for this Showdown slate to help you guys get in the green, help you win that money. We got a big prize over there on Draftkings, big prizes to be won on Fanduel. So, with that being said, quick reminder, if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. That way we don't miss any future content that I upload. I will be covering the MLB DFS slates all throughout the postseason. I also do cover NFL DFS and NBA DFS. So if you're interested in any of that, and or if you're getting very serious about any of those sports, I do offer premium packages linked below in the description. You get access to all the same tools that I use when building my own DFS lineups. Don't forget to stay tuned to the end of the video for my home run call of the day as well, fan favorite segment on this channel. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down the slate today. So it's only a two-gamer. Typically speaking, I always say, and I guess we'll stick with the theme of the KJK DFS breakdown here, I do sort my sheet by K rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. Keep in mind, there's two different formats. On DraftKings, pitchers are going to be in play. On FanDuel, pitchers aren't in play. So two different things we're looking at here. But, of course, we're going to need to break down what these guys' strengths are regardless. Garrett Cole comes into this game with a 33.5% KO overall with a 14.5 swinging strike rate. 29.1% K rate to righties. Really good ground ball, fly ball stuff, good slugging stuff against lefties. That's kind of been his biggest weakness on the year as far as hard contact, ground ball, fly ball issues. He gives him a 394 slugging, 46.2% fly ball rate. That's really not the greatest, but you have to keep in mind he does strike out those lefties at a 39.1% clip. That's absolutely elite. So if there's anyone that's going to get to him, most likely it's going to be these lefties. They're definitely the ones that we're going to want to be targeting. They're the ones that are going to be able to get the ball elevated and drive it deep into the outfield against Mr. Garrett Cole. So the Red Sox lefties will definitely be more so the guys I prefer. And then when it comes to Nathan Eovaldi, he's a little bit on the different end of the spectrum because he's a little bit reverse splitsy. He does give up a decent amount of fly balls. Not the worst in the world, but he does have a good hard contact rate, even better than Garrett Cole's. Against righties is where he struggles, though. He gives up a 424 slugging to those righties with a 313 WOBA against righties. Against lefties, he's not quite as bad. Only a 281 WOBA given up this season. That's very effective with a 375 slugging. So, of course, we can target the righties and the lefties. It's a one-gamer. You know, these guys are going to have to give up something, and it's only going to be them for, you know, whatever amount of innings they're able to survive out there on the mound, and then it's going to go to the bullpen. That's a whole different story. We can pull up the bullpens here, give you guys a breakdown of that, which advantage there is to be had as far as the bullpens are concerned. I have both these teams highlighted here. The Yankees definitely have the advantage when it comes to a bullpen aspect. They have arguably the best bullpen in baseball. If I go ahead and sort my my bullpen data sheet by XFIP, they do have the best bullpen in baseball, as that's clarified here. Hard contact, hard hit, barrel hit, really the only argument you could really make against them is the home run per fly ball has been an issue, I guess, at times. But Boston, definitely a bit of a worse bullpen here. Haven't really been good all season long. You go to the hard hit rate here for Boston, it's not good. Now, keep in mind, this is a one-game play-in wild card game. So, I mean, these teams are going to be throwing out their best possible arms. I wouldn't be surprised in the least to see the Red Sox go to Chris Sale out of the bullpen to try to keep them in their games. They've done that plenty of times before in the postseason, and wouldn't surprise me in the least. As far as the Vegas lines are concerned, the Yankees come in with a 4.39 implied total. The Red Sox come in with a 4.11 implied total, so the Yankees have the advantage in that aspect. And as far as hitting weather, this game is being played in Fenway with 57 degrees temperature and a 5-mile-an-hour wind blowing from left field. So really not the best hitting weather. And then as far as ballparks concerned, pulling up the diagram that I always like to show you guys for these multiple ballparks in Fenway Park in Boston, you can see pretty friendly hitting environment overall, especially down the left field line to those right-handed batters with the big green monster out there. Plays pretty friendly. Down the right field line, not nearly as friendly unless you really wrap it around that pesky pole out there in right field. But overall, Fenway Park, pretty great hitting environment, so it's not as if we have to worry too much about that. We do prefer to target the right-handed hitters that can pull in on the left field line, but regardless, like I said, it's not like the hitting weather is going to be the best, and that's kind of what we're looking at in this situation. And then as far as the hitters we're looking to go to on this slate today, like I said, with this showdown slate and these games expected to be, just the one game, we can definitely dig into some pitch data. So as always, I always like to look into pitch data. So first, we'll start off with Mr. Garrett Cole, figure out what he'd like to throw and what these Red Sox hitters do against that particular pitching repertoire. And looking at his stuff, he goes to a 97.3 mile-an-hour fastball on average. He'll go to that 52% of the time to righties, 44% of the time to lefties, and how the Red Sox fare against that. Some of their top hitters would be Mr. Kyle Schwarber. He comes with a 262 ISO with a 305 WOBA against that pitch. So Kyle Schwarber, a lefty that hits the high velocity fastball very well and matches up with the splits that we talked about in targeting Mr. Garrett Cole with a left-handed bat. So Kyle Schwarber is going to make a lot of sense to me on this showdown slate for sure. He's someone that I'd be taking a look to here. Second on the list that does hit that pitch well is Rafael Devers. He comes with a 256 ISO with a 333 WOBA against that pitch at the 96 plus mile-an-hour fastball, and he's also a lefty. So Kyle Schwarber and Rafael Devers against Mr. Garrett Cole obviously make a ton of sense in this spot. They both profile well. As far as anyone else in this lineup against the fastball, they all really don't hit the fastball well at all. I mean, the top guy would be Christian Arroyo all the way down to the bottom if he hits in the lineup, and he has a 429 ISO. I'd be interested to see if Bobby Dalbec cracks the lineup here. He's a guy that I would definitely be maybe looking to a little bit. Another thing I wanted to show you guys is my hot hitter StatCast data tool over here to talk about some of the hottest hitters on the season so far. And when you're looking at barrel percentage, I have this sorted by barrel percentage right now. Bobby Dalbec tops any of the guys on this slate right now with barrel percentage with a 20.2% barrel rate. Then you have Joey Gallo, Aaron Judge, Kyle Schwarber, who we discussed, Giancarlo Stanton. You got Luke Voigt in there, who could be possibly a pitch hitter, and Rafael Devers down here. But when I go ahead and sort my sheet by barrels, total barrels on the season, it's Mr. Aaron Judge and Rafael Devers that are topping that number there. So, I mean, that's not everything. Of course, the independent matchup matters, but we want guys that have been hitting the ball well all season. I just wanted to kind of show you guys a little bit behind the scenes of some of my advanced tools as well. Yeah, those are the guys off the fastball that really stand out. And then Garrett Cole's secondary pitches, it really depends on if he's facing a right-handed hitter or a left-handed hitter. If he goes to the right against the right-hander hitter, he's really reliant on the slider. He really likes going to that slider against righties. We've been breaking down who hits that well from the right-handed hitter's aspect on the Red Sox. Not really too many hitters that hit that all too well either, outside of Hunter Renfroe. He comes with a 300 ISO with a 334 WOBA, so Hunter Renfroe deep in the lineup, you can maybe get him at some lower ownership if he's in the 7th spot here, and he does hit the slider very effectively. So that could be someone that could maybe be a little bit of a sneakier play. And right off the top of the bat, no pun intended, right off the top of the bat, I'll tell you one of the biggest ways to be different on this showdown slate is going to be play guys at the bottom of the lineup. Everyone's going to be playing, all the guys 1 through 4, and all you have to do, it's one game. All it takes is one run to win the game. If you're going to compete for, $100,000 over here on Draftkings on this AL wildcard showdown slate from a game theory aspect, one of the simplest things you can do to be different is just play guys at the bottom of the lineup, guys. I mean, I talk about this all season long, but it's just so true. It's an effective strategy, and people don't like to go down there. And then, like I said, I just gave you a guy that profiles well from Garrett Cole's secondary pitch aspect. I mean, Hunter Renfroe didn't exactly profile well against the high-velocity fastball that we discussed, but he does profile very well against the slider. And all it takes is one pitch, one swing of the bat for that home run. You're going to need everyone that hits a home run if you're trying to come in first place. Hunter Renfroe could be that guy hitting off Garrett Cole's slider. And then as far as the lefties, if Garrett Cole's going to go against lefties, his secondary pitches are the changeup and the curveball. First against the changeup and those lefties, Kyle Schwarber hits it well with a 216 ISO and a 305 WOBA. Rafael Devers hits it well with a 310 ISO and a 422 WOBA. And Verdugo really not grading out very well. So it's Schwarber and Devers that I'm really liking from the Red Sox for sure. When you're factoring everything that Garrett Cole's struggled more so against those left-handed hitters. These guys have been on fire all season long. Pulling up my splits leaderboard here as well, Rafael Devers, I have this sorted by ISO against righties. He has a 341 ISO against righties. The guy's been absolutely mashing all season long, a 621 slugging. And then that strikeout rate that we talked about, Garrett Cole does strike out those lefties at a very high clip with a 39.1% strikeout rate. If you're looking at Rafael Devers' strikeout rate, he only strikes out 24.8% of the time. Now, that's not the best in the world, but in today's MLB, that's really not that bad of a strikeout clip for a guy that displays that much power. So, definitely like Rafael Devers. And then as far as a guy that doesn't strike out a lot, that hits on the left-hand side of the plate, it's going to be Alex Verdugo. He only strikes out at a 15.2% clip. He has a 378 WOBA. We did talk about, he doesn't profile well at all against Garrett Cole here, outside of the fact that he doesn't strike out a lot. He doesn't really have a lot of strong numbers against Garrett Cole's repertoire, but if you're looking for a left-handed hitter that matches up against those splits, and that doesn't strike out a lot, it would be Mr. Alex Verdugo, and he makes a lot of sense on this slate tonight for sure, taking on Garrett Cole. So those are the Red Sox hitters I'd be going to. As far as on the Yankee side, taking on Nathan Eovaldi and looking at some of the stuff that he throws here, give you guys my favorite options as well. Mr. Nathan Eovaldi has been pretty solid on the season. We talked about how he has been worse against right-handed hitters for sure here. I'm sure if he's struggling, he'll have a short leash, so just keep that in mind as well. But we're always looking for the edge. If these guys are going to go deep into the game, we need to find that one guy that's going to hit the solo home run, etc., for us to get us to the top of that leaderboards. Nathan Eovaldi, very similar to Garrett Cole, does throw a very high-velocity fastball, upwards of 96 miles an hour, and when looking at who fares well against that pitch on the Yankees, it's really going to be Aaron Judge, the first one that really stands out here. Aaron Judge has a 417 ISO with a 503 WOBA against fastballs that are at 96 mile an hour or faster. That's a big-time good statistic as far as, pitch repertoire and how he fares against it. Over 400 ISO, that's very impressive. And he has a 503 WOBA, and that's over a 42 batted balls example size. I mean, that's pretty impressive stuff there. The rest of the guys at the top of the lineup honestly aren't looking too great against that high-velocity fastball. And then at the bottom of the lineup, if you need to get a salary relief, guys, we have Brett Gardner and Kyle Higashioka that fare well against that pitch. Brett Gardner with a 217 ISO, Kyle Higashioka with a 250 ISO, and 309 WOBA and a 306 WOBA for both those guys. And I guarantee they're not going to have the highest ownership. So similar to the guys that we talked about at the bottom of the Red Sox order, the same was going to apply here for these guys. I mean, you can get Brett Gardner and Kyle Higashioka at very little ownership, I'm sure. And they both profile great. So that's the guys from a tournament aspect guy. Like, that's what I'm looking for. That's great. I mean, I don't have to worry about the ownership as much as these guys at the top of the order. These guys both actually literally profile better. And I'm feeling great about that in my tournament. So those are the two guys I really like there. And then as far as the curveball and splitter combination, that's really what he'll go to for the most part. Eovaldi against righties, he really likes to go to the slider as well. So I guess we can go ahead and check in on how these righties do against the slider here. And the top guys are going to be Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton for sure. Aaron Judge has a 202 ISO, and Giancarlo Stanton has a 292 ISO, 387 WOBA for Stanton, and a 335 for Judge. And if you watch the last series against the Red Sox, Giancarlo Stanton really had a great series. He's been hot towards the end of the year. He's starting to get back on the right track here, and he's a guy that is a very streaky hitter. So, when he's in the bad streak, you can make an argument you don't really want to target him. When he's in a good streak, it's very difficult to fade him. So, I really like Giancarlo Stanton as well as far as heading against that secondary slider and Aaron Judge for sure. And then as far as against the lefties, his secondary pitches are really the cutter and the splitter as well as the curveball. As far as the curveball is concerned, Anthony Rizzo with a 286 ISO at the top of that lineup, and Joey Gallo has a 421 ISO. So Joey Gallo's a guy that I wanted to talk about here on my Hot Hitter StatCast data tool. We talked about sorting my sheet by barrel percentage. Joey Gallo is definitely up there for barrel percentage. We know what Joe Gallo is all about. The guy hits the ball to the moon. He can strike out quite a bit. That's, of course, your concern. When looking at Nathan Eovaldi's strikeout rate, though, he does have a 26.2% carry to lefties. That's pretty solid, but not quite as high as Garrett Cole's 39.1%. For that reason, might be able to be putting the ball in play here. And Joey Gallo could definitely send one into orbit. So Joey Gallo and Anthony Rizzo both making sense from a secondary pitch aspect, like both those guys. You can make the argument that they could be maybe good fades because Eovaldi has been better against righties so far. Against lefties so far in the season. But looking at all aspects, they do make a lot of sense here on this one-game showdown slate. And then the splitter and the cutter, see if there's anyone that stands out from that aspect. The splitter, no one really profiles well except for Rougned Odor at the bottom of the order. So he's the one that can get a hold of one here in the 9 spot if he cracks the lineup. And then as far as the cutter is concerned, against those lefties, no one really that I'm getting too excited about against the cutter either. So honestly, on the Yankees side, the guys that profile the best are going to be Aaron Judge. We talked about the bottom of the order, Brett Gardner, Kyle Higashioka, and Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, really. And then you got Rizzo, Gallo. Gio Urshela is a guy that could be slept on, that maybe some lower ownership that you could be looking to in your lineups. But yeah, that's my overall breakdown, really, of the hitters that I'd be going through so far. And then as far as from a lineup build aspect, we can go ahead and do that. On DraftKings, like I said, there's a pitcher involved, so it's very different. I mean, if Garrett Cole or Nathan Eovaldi go out there and they rack up like 10 strikeouts and no one does anything offensively, It's going to be very difficult to win the Showdown slate on DraftKings without having that pitcher in your captain spot, I would say. But then again, if Rafael Devers goes out there and hits 2 home runs, it's going to be very difficult to win this slate with the captain spot. So I guess we'll do a little bit of build of both. And just keep in mind, the pitcher you're playing, you most likely want to fade most of the other offense, I would say. You know, you could definitely play a couple bats as a Showdown slate. Anything can happen. If you pick out the 2 guys that hit home runs and the pitcher has a great performance outside of that, you could be looking really good. Well, let's go ahead and just play Nathan Eovaldi in our captain spot for now. Let's just say, I mean, Garrett Cole is a better strikeout rate, all that stuff, but the Yankees do strike out a lot. That's kind of their one thing that you can make an argument against, and they've been hot, but let's just go ahead and say we expect that the Yankees are going to strike out a bunch. We put Nathan Eovaldi in our captain spot. We like Schwarber, we like Devers, the left-hand hitters against Cole that profile well, put them in there. We talked about Hunter Renfroe's ability to hit the slider off righties. We'll go ahead and throw him in there. That leaves us with 2,900, so you can see things get pretty thin salary-wise pretty quick over here on DraftKings. It might be a little bit difficult to get in there, but we do have Kyle Higashioka at the bottom of the Yankees lineup we discussed liking. That leaves us with 1,200, and once again, probably going to be a little bit difficult. We'll probably have to jump down for Renfroe if we really want to fit both of those slugging lefties in there. And we could probably drop down to, let's see, we talked about Alex Verdugo's ability to not really strike out, put the ball in play at 5,800, so I'll throw him in there. That leaves us with 4,600. We still have enough for Mr. Rougned Odor at the bottom of the lineup. So we're getting majority Red Sox hitters here. We're saying Eovaldi has a good game. Then towards the end of the game, maybe Higashioka or maybe Odor and Higashioka each hit like a double or something like that. So that lineup build would make sense on DraftKings. There's an example. And then you could go to a different lineup build. Let's say you are saying Aaron Judge profiles very well. So we're going to put him in the captain spot here. And we're going to say, you know, Aaron Judge goes out there and hits 2 home runs off the right-handed split struggle in Eovaldi here. You know, he profiles great. We'll put him in the captain spot. So we can still play Eovaldi, but let's just say that Eovaldi gets blown up in this game. We want to get some Yankees bats in there. We like Stanton too. We like getting some bottom of the lineup exposure. You could load him up with Rizzo as well. That's going to give maybe like 6,100. Then we're going to have to get some salary relief guys here. We didn't talk about Gleyber Torres. I mean, Gleyber Torres from a profile aspect didn't stand out, but he is going to be in the leadoff spot. I mean, he's been doing a lot better here in the latter half of the season, kind of getting it together, and he's at a cheaper salary than some of these other guys. So Gleyber Torres could definitely make some sense to me for sure. At 7K if you need some salary relief here. Let's go to Mr. Verdugo again for our salary relief. We'll play some Gio Urshela for some salary relief. And then that leaves us with 7,300. We could go to Gleyber Torres if we'd like. And that's pretty much just that lineup build right there would be a Yankees onslaught. So that's assuming, you know, this Yankees lineup really goes off. The Red Sox really don't do much, and the only one that does anything is Alex Verdugo. Obviously, that would be your plan there. It is smart to be stacking in MLB. We always talk about that. So if we can do some mini stacks in this build as well, that would make sense. So, you know, be stacking up guys maybe 2 through 4 or 5 through 7, or mixing in a little bit of a blend, 2 then a 4 then a 6 then a 8. So there's still some correlation in there. That's what I would be having that in the back of my mind as I'm building these lineups. Then on FanDuel, it's a different ball game because there's really no pitching, and there's really no question as to how we're going to build the lineup. The guy that we expect to have the highest score on the slate, we're going to put in our MVP spot. The guy that we expect to have the second highest score on the slate from a hitting aspect, we're going to put in the star spot. And then we're going to have the next 3 highest scoring guys in the utility. It's really not that difficult, you know, obviously from a strategy aspect to figure that out. So let's say the guy that we expect to score the most. I mean, we haven't talked about Xander Bogaerts. Xander Bogaerts is a great hitter. He doesn't profile that well against Garrett Cole, but if there's a guy that could do it, I don't want to forget about mentioning him. He's definitely good. But we're going to go with the guys we talked about. Kyle Schwarber, he really graded out well. Aaron Judge, he really graded out well. So we'll start our lineup off with those 2 guys. That's going to leave us 6K per position. Aaron Judge is very expensive on FanDuel. You'll learn that real quick. So then we're going to need a little bit of salary relief. Maybe go to a Hunter Renfroe, who we had mentioned profile as well. He's priced much friendlier over here on FanDuel, so I like that. Maybe going to, like, that leaves us with 5,700, so we could go to a Joey Gallo, who we mentioned can get a hold of a ball anytime for that home run. And then we have 5,500 left for either an Alex Verdugo, a Gio Urshela, or a Brett Gardner. So, I mean, you know, that's kind of the strategy on both these sites. That's my overall breakdown here. And before I let you guys go, I got to give you my home run call of the day. Let's get into it. And my home run call of the day today is going to be Aaron Judge. We talked about it. This guy profiles really good off Nathan Mlb. Yankees are going into Fenway. They're going to get the guaranteed 9th inning at bat, even if they need to use that 9th inning to get the home run, like Aaron Judge in this spot. And then we talked about the slugging given up against righties. A 424 slugging with a 313 WOBA for Nathan Eovaldi. Then when you're going to the repertoire of what he throws, on average, you're looking at a 96 to 97 mile-an-hour fastball. And Aaron Judge crushes that pitch. A 417 ISO with a 503 WOBA, 68.42% hard contact rate. And we're not dealing with a small sample size here, folks. We're dealing with a 42 batted ball event sample size. Love that he profiles that good against that pitch. And then as far as the secondary pitch, in the slider, not an issue for Aaron Judge either, because he features a 202 ISO with a 335 WOBA. Love this spot for Aaron Judge. Get him in your lineups because he is my home run call of the day. So there you have it, guys. Aaron Judge, get him in your lineups. And that is all from me in this one. If you did enjoy the content, if you could please take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. That would be greatly appreciated. We'll have NFL content coming, some more MLB DFS content coming for these playoffs. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Wish you all the best of luck in this showdown slate, and we will see you in the next one.